Before we begin, I would like to warn everyone that we will be discussing about works related to depression and its syndromes. For anyone that may feel unpleasant about these topics, please be wary and continue to watch and listen under your own risk. Also, if you happen to relate to any of these syndromes that will be mentioned in the video, please do not diagnose yourself and seek for professional help. Thank you. A very good morning, everyone. My name is Rizal, and I will be the master of the ceremony of this event and also one of the main speakers of this event. Also with me is Allycia, Aurelia, and Novia, all of whom are also the main speakers of this event. We are students of Yogyakarta State University, taking English Literature as our majors. So to begin, as I have said before, the seminar will talk about works of art that discusses depressions. As human beings, health has always been one of our major concerns. With a healthy body, we can do everything normally and enjoy things better than with an unhealthy one. But even with a healthy body, having mental health problems is a major drawback to one's life. According to the WHO, in 2017, an estimated amount of 264 million people suffer from depressions. That's as much as Indonesia's population in the same year. So if everyone who suffers from depression is from Indonesia, every single Indonesian would suffer from it. Depression is a serious thing, and with this seminar, aside from discussing literary works, we hope to raise awareness about mental health problems, especially depression. That is why the title of the seminar is Depression, a Silent Killer. The works of art that we are going to discuss are selected poems from Sabrina Benaim's book, Depression and Other Magic Tricks. According to the American Psychiatric Association, depression is a common and serious mental health disorder that negatively affects how you feel, the way you think, and how you act. It is characterized by constant feelings of sadness and a loss of interest in activities that you once enjoyed. Being sad and depressed is different. Although sadness is a part of depression, they are different in some ways. First, sadness usually lasts for a short amount of time, while depression lasts for a long time, at least 2 weeks. Sadness is an emotion that usually is a reaction towards a specific event, while depression is a condition which commonly occurs without any specific reason. Depression is also often confused with grief. Grief comes with sadness from the loss of a certain person, usually a loved one. Both grief and depression causes suicidal thoughts, but in grief, the thoughts came because they wanted to join the person in the afterlife, while in depression, suicidal thoughts come from their feelings of being unworthy to live. People with depression have low self-esteem, while it is usually maintained in grief. Nonetheless, depression is a serious mental illness and could cause severe damages. Those who suffer from depression loathe themselves and think of themselves as useless and worthless, decreasing their life performances. These effects, if left untreated, can lead to suicidal thoughts and even attempts. People with depression usually isolate themselves and do purposeless activities for a long period of time. It is important for us to reach their hands, should we ever find one, or to seek for professional help if you feel them yourself. Depression is such a harsh thing to bear. The constant negative feelings that come with it are slowly but surely killing the people who suffer from it. They do what they can to cope with their wild minds and ferocious feelings. Some people, mostly writers, happen to run into poetry, like the author of the book that we are discussing, Sabrina Benaim. They use poems as a way to express their feelings and state of mind. The world of poetry is infinite and wondrous, perfect for people with wild minds, especially those that just won't stop being so.
Here we're gonna talk about the writer. Sabrina Benaim was born November 30, at 1987 in Toronto, Canada. She is a writer, performance artist, and slam poet. Benaim was a winner of the 2014 Toronto Poetry Slam. She is best known from her poem Explaining My Depression to My Mother. She is currently a coach of the 2016 Toronto Poetry Slam. At age 23, Benaim was found to have a tumor in her throat. She took performs poetry as a way to cope her health complications and raise awareness for issues like anxiety and depressions. She also represented Toronto at the Women of the World Poetry Slam. About her career, she took off on social media through her poem Explaining My Depressions to My Mother. From there, she did a tour of the UK, Australia, USA, and Canada, connecting with many of her fans through her poetry, books, and storytelling, which furthered the take-off of her career. Her poetry tackles issues that are relevant in our society like mental health, family, and love. Benaim has written poetry for ESPNW, the government of Canada, and she made her television debut on Sport Checks. Benaim is well known from performing of Putri poetry on YouTube series. And she is nominated for Third Best Poetry at 2017 Choice Awards and Championship of the 2014 Toronto Poetry Slam. And this is a list about her works. There are Explaining My Depression to My Mother's, June, When I Talked to the Doctor, How to Sort Dreams on Pattern Poetry, What I Told the Doctor to the Second Time, So I'm Taking to My Depressions on a Pattern Poetry, The Soul Now, and The Loneliness Sweet Potato. She is also write books, Depressions, and Other Magic Tricks on 2017. Looking or thinking about that. When I see a candle, I see the flash of a church. The flicker of the light sparks a memory younger than noon. I am standing beside her open casket. In the moment, I realize every person I ever come to know will someday die. From Explaining My Depressions to My Mother, Conversations. For the Simpsons, looking at or thinking about that, the moment on this stanza, you were to realize and thinking about that. She is consciously conscious that there will be a moment when she will die sometimes. And so, on the stanza, Mom says, I am so good at making something out of nothing. And then flat out asks me if I am afraid of dying. No, I am afraid of living. Mom, I'm lonely. From Explaining My Depressions to My Mother, Conversations. Here, the writer tells her mother that she is more afraid of living instead of dying because of the loneliness feelings. For both connections between the verse are proof that people who have a depression are looking or thinking about that as a symptom. The next symptoms: having little to no energy. Can see in this stanza. I mean, I am flawless procrastinator. My heart is a messy bedroom. I always distract myself from cleaning. From the first day. Here's depression is strong. strain the energy and make us wipe out. We have no energy to do something, either have the willpower to act. And it sucks. Makes us into a procrastinator, not even to act, move towards, but also to manage our talk. My heart is messy bedroom. I always distract myself for cleaning. Means she has no power to control herself inside. Moving to the next symptoms. Losing interest in activities is similar as the topic before, right? Now we can read on this passage that you cannot go out of bed. I can. Anxiety holds me hostage inside my house, inside my head. From explaining my depression to my mother, a conversations. This stanza showing that the writer that she cannot go away and losing her interest in activities due to the anxiety that holds her back. Anxious feelings trigger the amygdala that dominated the emotion and cause overthinking. Next stanza for the same topic. Mom says, why don't you try going to actual parties? See your friends. Sure, I make plans. I make plans, but I don't want to go. I make plans because I know I should want to go. I know at some point I would have wanted to go. It's just not that much fun having fun when you don't want to have fun, Mom. From explaining my depression to my mother, a conversation. At this point, she is actually explained her losing interest in activities. As she stated, I make plans but I don't want to go. I make plans because I know I should want to go. I know at some point I would have wanted to go. It's just not that much fun having fun when you don't want to have fun. She is actually losing her willingness. For the next symptoms, edges, pains, headache, or cramps that won't go away. We can find on this stanza. What I mean is, have you ever felt the edge of swallowing starlight? The cinnamon heartburn? What it means? His name is a plate set at the table of my tongue because I learned love. Like, wait for it. From first day. Have you ever felt the edge of swallowing starlight? That cinnamon heartburn? Depressions and edges not only physically but also feelings. Here she makes the analogy the edges of swallowing starlight at the edges itself.
Another symptom is increased sensitivity. It can be seen from one of her works, Home from the Beach Trip. On the fourth line, it says, I have woken up and cried for 3 mornings in a row. Each time felt as if there was a reason, but I could not remember it. So, looking at that exact line, there are multiple scenarios that could happen. One is just because she woke up, felt horrible in a way, and she felt very sensitive, that's why she cries. Or another situation is that she had little problems built into her mind and they all come out together, all in one. For instance, the little things that actually is not a problem is turned into a problem because of how sensitive she is. And because all of that sensitivity and problem building up in her mind when she cried that exact morning, she didn't really know why, because everything's just all mixed up. That could be the reason, one of the reasons, or two, on why she woke up, cried, but she still doesn't know why she was crying. Increased sensitivity could also be seen in her other poem, which is explaining my depression to my mother. On the first stanza, it says, Mom, my depression is a shapeshifter. One day it is as small as a firefly in the palm of a bear. The next day it is the bear. In this case, it could be seen that depression changes throughout the week or the month. Each day it could be different. It also depends on her sensitivity. So maybe if she wasn't that sensitive in that exact day, depression feels light and it feels like you could go throughout your day without actually bothering you that much. But it could also be very bad, and it could make your day feel super heavy, and again, as in like a bear. Next is change of appetite. It could be seen from her poem Feed a Fever, Starve a Cold. First stanza, it says, to forget the artichoke heart buries itself in leaves, to the source of the true hunger, to look full, to appear flush. In this case, she's making sure that even though she's hungry, or maybe, because of depression, change of appetite, she still looks full, and she wants to appear flush so that people does not know that she's actually starving, or she's actually losing appetite throughout each day of her depression, because one of the symptoms is to lose an appetite. This symptom could also be seen on 5th and 6th stanza of the same poem. In the 5th stanza, it says, his heart believes his smile's last word were a secret handshake. I have not eaten dessert since. In this case, the whole entire book talks about her life, and love story and love life could also be in it. So in this case, it could possibly mean that dessert itself reminds her of the guy, and that's why she lost an appetite eating it. The 6th stanza says, if the bag of carrot sticks is full, I do not bother counting how many I eat. There are never enough. It could be seen from the change of dessert to carrot, as in something sweet, not too healthy, to something very healthy. It could be because, she just felt like, I don't want to eat anything sweet anymore, or anything not healthy, and focusing on her healthier stuff like eating carrots. That's possibly one thing that leading to another. Maybe another thing has something to do. Maybe she just felt like she needs to eat healthier. That's why her appetite in eating something sweet or not too healthy is gone, and she's moving towards healthier food, like, for example, in this case, carrots. The next symptom is changes in weight. This has a relation with the other symptom, which is change in appetite. In the same exact poem, different stanza, this one is in stanza 7, it says, when my friend tells me I seem smaller, I joke, I am too young to be shrinking. When he says, no, Sabrina, I mean skinnier, and I tell him, not on purpose. I'm not lying. So, changes in appetite isn't, like, she doesn't do it on purpose. So, in that case, losing weight, she felt like she didn't do it on purpose, because, again, I guess while you're depressed, you can't really tell what's good and what's wrong, and your mind isn't clear. She doesn't realize that only eating healthy food could also make her lose weight. In this case, it could be seen from her friends too. Her friends saying that, oh, you look skinnier, are you okay, blah, blah, blah. Even though she makes a joke out of it, saying, what, I'm not smaller, I'm not skinnier, like, I can't shrink, blah, blah, blah. It's actually very much her trying to make it seem like it's okay, like nothing is wrong with me, I'm okay. The next symptom is uncontrollable emotions. This is actually pretty similar to increased sensitivity because it is related, but it's the bigger picture. It could be seen from another of her poems, The Other Side of a Memory. This poem is not actually her point of view, is the people around hers. So there is a line where it says, we did not understand why she would not stop crying, even when we held her down to the couch, begging her to. It could be seen there that the fact that they had to hold her down on the couch, it already seems uncontrollable. And again, uncontrollable emotions, you can't really do anything about it, as in you gotta just let it out. Before that line, it kind of tells the story of how she hasn't been herself since 10th grade and everything is just changing. She looks fine and all, but she's actually not. All of that could kind of cramp into one and again let out altogether, and it could also turn into uncontrollable emotion, as it says here, where the people around her is technically forcing her and like holding her down to the couch, begging her to stop crying because they don't even know either why she's crying, because it could just easily be everything just kind of comes out and you're tired, so you let it out by crying. And it could be because either everything is just hard or it just feels full, that's why it tends to be uncontrollable, or it's just very hard for her.
So, suicidal attempts, feelings of guilt and worthlessness to live, and trouble in making decisions are symptoms of depressions that we can find in the poem Magic Trick 2 in page 27 and Minnows in page 27 of the book. The first poem talked about her suicide attempt. In this poem, she was a fish that flies by taking the hook that was cast by a fisherman, all in an attempt to see something better than what her mind has made her see. With such overwhelming depression comes a huge self-loath. With huge self-loath comes feelings of unworthiness to live and suicidal thoughts. And with all those thoughts in her mind, she thought that maybe by dying she would see something better than what she has seen in this world. The next poem, Minnows, talks about her analogy, or we could call it fantasy, of having minnows inside her stomach. The minnows are the symbolization of her feelings and inner desires for her lover. Notice that the minnows are acquired from when she was singing for her lover underwater. A singing is tightly associated with gift and strong feelings towards a lover. Underwater here could be an analogy to be drowned in her love for him. However, the minnow's food comes from the lover, and the lover rarely feeds his fish, making them starve. This starvation leads the writer to some negative effects. She started drinking to control her tides, and she kept drinking to keep her minnows alive. She missed her lover so much that eventually she loses hope and made mausoleums for the minnows, although the minnows aren't dead yet. This behavior shows the symptoms of depression, trouble in making decisions, and feelings of worthlessness. The reason she dug a grave for her feelings is because she felt unwanted by her lover and therefore worthless. But the minnows are still alive, although the graves had already been dug and is engraved with each of the minnows' nicknames. Her depressed mind makes it hard for her to choose between burying her feelings or keeping it alive. She noticed that her lover might be deeply interested with her after all. Confused, she chooses to dig graves anyway, in case the minnows are ready to die, which eventually happened.
Now, let's look at some more connections between the selected poems in your book and the symptoms that are present when a person is suffering from depression. Now, we have hopelessness, and this could not only mean not having hope, but this could also mean having a negative outlook on life. It could also mean being overly pessimistic. So this person does not expect to receive or feel anything decent from themselves or from other people or from their circumstances, because they do not have the hope anymore. They do not have the expectation anymore. Now let's look at some of the lines or passages that we have from the book. This is from the poem called Explaining My Depression to My Mother. This is a very famous poem because it has been read by the author a few times and it has gained a lot of views online, a few million views. So a lot of people might be familiar with this poem. So in this poem we have the lines, "I am standing beside her open casket. It is the moment I realize every person I ever come to know will someday die." And then we have, "Sure, I make plans but I don't want to go. I make plans because I should want to go." Next, "It's just not that much fun, having fun when you don't want to have fun." And next we have, "My happy is a high fever that will break. My happy is as hollow as a pin-pricked egg." And the last line from this poem is, "I am afraid of living." So these lines, or these sentences that we have picked out, these really speak on the symptoms. It really says a lot about this. From the sentence, "Sure, I make plans but I don't want to go. I make plans because I should want to go." It means this person, this persona, or this character from the poem makes their plans because they would like to impress their friends or impress whoever they made plans with. It's not because they're actually interested in the event or interested in meeting the people they're planning to meet, but it's more about the plan. They want to seem active, they want to seem like they care, and they want to seem friendly even if they don't necessarily want to participate in whatever the event is. And then from the next poem we have a few lines from The Loneliest Sweet Potato. So from The Loneliest Sweet Potato we have, "I feel sad because nobody is in love with me. Nobody is in love with me, but everybody loves me. The saddest word you know is my name. My name walks around at the grocery store and feels less sad. Less sad because at the grocery store, at least nobody knows there's nobody in love with me." This also speaks a lot because when a person feels like nobody cares about them, but at the same time there are so many people that are around them all the time, everywhere they go, it can feel very lonely. It could be very isolating for that person, and this person is likely putting themselves out there in public places, but they're alone because they're more comfortable that way. They're more comfortable with them being alone because nobody would know who they are and what they're going through. They would blend in with all the other people in public, and they would just be one of the hundreds or one of the thousands that other people see. So when they say, "I feel sad because nobody is in love with me. Nobody is in love with me, but everybody loves me," it can be very isolating to know that there are many people around you. There are many friends that maybe you see every single day in school or maybe at your workplace, but you feel as though you don't really have any emotional connection with any of them. So all these lines that have been plucked out, the selected poems, speak very closely to the symptom in question. So the symptom was hopeless and negative outlook and pessimism and things that are around that caliber. Now moving on to the next symptom, we have increased fatigue. And for this, we have a line from the poem called The Other Side of a Memory. It says, "It was hard to tell if she was a stubborn surge or a tired dimming circuit." Now for the next symptom, we have increased sleep problems. It is a widely known fact that sleep is very hard to manage when you have a lot of baggage in your mind. So about that particular symptom, we have a few lines. Firstly, from the poem called Explaining My Depression to My Mother Again. The line is, "My mom says I thought the problem was that you can't get out of bed. I can't. Each night, insomnia sweeps me into its arms." So this is very evident that a person with depression is more likely to have sleep problems. And the next symptom is anxiety. So this is also one of the most prominent symptoms that a person with depression would experience. First of all, we have a line from the poem called First Date. It says, "Do you ever sit on the end of your bed and listen to the world spin? I hear that song everywhere." And next we have a few lines from Explaining My Depression to My Mother. "Anxiety holds me hostage inside of my house, inside of my head. Mom says, where did anxiety come from? Anxiety is the cousin visiting from out of town depression felt obliged to bring to the party. Mom, I am the party. Only I am a party I don't want to be at. When I tell you I've been super busy lately, I mean I've been falling asleep watching SportsCenter on the couch to avoid confronting the empty side of my bed." And then from the poem called The Plain Truth, "On the days I wake up and my name is a euphemism for depressed or anxious or whatever. I cannot tell you the number of times I put my hair up into a bun only to take it right back down because I am afraid of the kink the elastic will leave. It's exhausting." So from these few lines that I've read, it enforces the widely known fact that anxiety usually comes with depression. When a person is dealing with anxious thoughts, it is usually very difficult to stop thinking about a small matter. Like this one line where the person says they can't stop putting their hair up into a bun only to take it down again. It's because they're worried about the little things. They're worried about the little impacts that might even be insignificant or irrelevant, but they're worried because it seems bigger in their head. But these days, it is somewhat a lot easier for people to express these feelings, to express these thoughts, because back then, hundreds of years ago, for example, in the Victorian era, it is not very common to talk about your mental problems. It is not very common to talk about mental illnesses. It is more common to talk about sadness or heartbreak than it is about mental issues. So it is really lucky that in this time we are able to express our thoughts more, and authors are able to express their opinions and voice their problems more through their writing, and have a lot of people also relate to it without the backlash. It is very evident that we cannot find a lot of poems from that time or from that era that speaks about things like this, that speaks about someone's struggles with their mental state.
Now, as it has been already explained, there are tons of symptoms of depression that you can actually find in this book of poems. And this is also not just some sort of like story, but it's actually what the author is feeling. So by how she is telling how her life is when she felt this type of symptom, or she felt this type of symptom, or just her battling with depression on a daily basis, it could easily be seen in these poems. And it also can inform people like, this is how it feels to have depression. Depression doesn't always look like crying all day and night or looking sad every day. No, because depression, there are multiple types of depressions, and also how people cope them is very much different. These symptoms are general symptoms, so maybe not all the people who has depression has it, but mostly yes. Mostly these are the symptoms that people who are depressed usually have. And the fact that the author gave her time and energy to inform people that this is how I deal with depression is very much beautiful, and we could see it from the poems that she wrote.
Finally, we have reached the end of the seminar. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comment section. We'll try to answer them as much as we can. Thank you very much for watching our seminar, and see you later. Goodbye.